In this video, we're going to be creating our geozones, and geozones are set up basically for shipping and tax purposes. Now, before I do that, I'd just like to say I'm not a tax advisor, so you may need to seek advice from your accountant or your tax advisor, your local inland revenue, or perhaps even customs, just to assure yourself that you're doing things correctly here. So to begin with, we go to System, Localization, scroll down the page and go to geozones. So to create our first geozone, I'm going to go to the right hand side here and click the add new, and we're going to give this geozone a name. So this is going to be my first shipping zone. And to best explain the shipping zones that I'm going to be setting up here, I'm just going to go over to On Post, which is the National Postal Service here in Ireland, and show you what I'm talking about there. So here on the On Post page, we can see that we have basically 4 zones for our postal system. Our first zone is covering all postage in Zone 1, which is all postage going to Ireland. Our second zone then is for Great Britain, that's Zone 2. Zone 3 then is Europe, so that's all of Europe, and then Zone 4 is the rest of the world. So I have to set up 4 zones here for shipping purposes. So back again to geozones, and I'm going to call this Shipping Ireland. I'm going to call it Zone 1 shipping, and now I have to add a country to this zone, so I do that by clicking add the geozone here, and I can drop down my select menu here for the country. I'll just keep typing in I until I reach Ireland. Then I'll press my enter key on my keyboard, and now Ireland is there as the country, and the zones within Ireland are the top level subdivisions of that country, so it's showing all zones here for Ireland. So I can just drop this down, and as we can see here, all the counties of Ireland are included in that zone. Now Ireland has 32 counties, 6 of which are in Northern Ireland, and they're governed by the UK. Now they're not included in the drop down here for Ireland, so I'm going to have to add those 6 counties to be included here in the shipping zone, because they're the same postal rates as Southern Ireland. So to do this, I just click on the add geozone here to add the second one. I drop this down, start typing U for UK, and when I get to UK I press enter on my keyboard. Now by default here all zones come in with the country, so all the top level subdivisions of the UK are in here. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to just need to put in the 6 zones for the 6 counties of Northern Ireland. So to do this, I'll have to just scroll down until I find them. Now here's the 6 zones, Antrim, down from etc. here. So I'll have to add these one by one, so I'll just click County Antrim. Now that's added just County Antrim to my shipping zone 1 here, along with the 26 counties that are already here for Ireland. So I'll just keep going here until I add the other 5 counties. So now that's done. There's basically 32 counties now included in my Shipping Ireland Zone 1. So I come up to the right hand side here and click Save. Now I'm going to have to continue on and create 4 shipping zones which match the 4 shipping zones here for On Post. Of course this will vary depending on what country you're in, setting up your shipping zones. So for instance, if you're in the UK, you'll probably be checking out the Royal Mail and see what zones that they have if you're working from the UK. So back over again, and I'll just create the other 4 zones. And just here I'm setting up the Zone 2, and it's for Great Britain. So just to show you something here that you may have to do, I'm just going to add the geozone here, drop down and select the UK again, and currently now all zones are included in the UK shipping here. Now I'm going to have to remove 6 zones out of here, and that's the 6 zones of Northern Ireland, these ones here, as I don't want my system to get confused on the shipping rates. Now there may be an extension in the OpenCart store that may help you remove counties quickly, but we can't remove the county as such here. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add all the other counties and just omit these 6 counties. So we'll start doing that by going into Aberdeen, add the next zone here, drop down, click Aberdeenshire, and so on until we have all the zones in, but omitting those 6 zones. Now there is a bit of work in this, but it is one-off. You're basically setting it and forgetting it. You shouldn't have to come back in to alter your zones unless your postal system our delivery system changes for some reason. So that's my 4 shipping zones created. Now next we're going to be setting up a VAT zone, and the VAT zone we're setting up first is the 0 rated VAT zone, and 0 is actually a rate as opposed to being exempt. So as I'm in Europe, and when I'm shipping to countries outside Europe, they're basically 0 rated for VAT. So we add our zone up here, add new, and we're going to give this a name. I'm calling it ROW VAT zone, which basically means rest of world VAT zone, keeping the description the same, and I add the countries down here that are outside of the EU. So I keep going on down, adding the geo zones one by one, and when I'm finished I'll come up here and click save. Next I'll add an EU VAT zone, and I'll start adding the countries within the EU here. And unlike the shipping zone here with Ireland and the UK, we just leave all zones and all zones here. We don't need to start breaking down the divisions within the countries. Just continue on, and when we're finished we'll click save here as well. And there's one more zone here I need to add if I'm going to be wholesaling products. Basically, within the EU, my wholesale customers that provide me with a valid VAT number can be 0 rated for VAT as well. So I need to set up a geozone for those customers. Now this, in my particular case, will include all the countries of Europe, but it will exclude the country that I'm living in, which is Ireland. So again, come up to the right hand side, add new, put all the countries in there again, and that's the zone created. Now it is a bit laborious to do all of this. There may be an extension in the OpenCart store that you can get or purchase that may speed up this process, but basically these are one-off things you need to do, so you basically set them and forget them, and it gives you a good understanding of what's needed here to keep you compliant with VAT, etc. But like I say, before setting up any of these, do take advice from a tax advisor or your inland revenue to make sure you're doing everything correct here. Now, just one more thing here, which is applicable in my particular case. The rest of world VAT zone here is actually the same as the rest of world shipping zone. And what I could have done was just created one geo zone here for shipping and VAT for the rest of the world. But I've created the two here just for demonstration purposes. It's going to make it much easier. Now, the geo zones you set up will obviously be applicable to where you're located, and applicable shipping rates, applicable shipping zones, and applicable tax zones, etc.